Thank you very much, Pat, for getting us started. Good morning, everyone. There may be a few differences in this service. I think a lot of people are been hit by the power outages and other impacts of the storm, so we'll go along. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the First Unitarian Congregation of Ottawa. My name is Kate, and I'm delighted to be your worship associate this morning. Whether you're taking part in this worship celebration from your home or wherever else you may be, whenever you may log on, you are welcome here. We acknowledge that our FirstU campus is located on traditional, unsurrendered, and unceded Algonquin Anishinaabe territory, and that the work of reconciliation is a responsibility of our congregation and of all Canadians. Our goal is to educate ourselves and all who have ears to hear, to be of service to those who are at risk, and to advocate for justice. Do take care and take advantage of online opportunities at FirstU to stay in touch during this protracted pandemic. If you are new to FirstU and would like to learn more about us, please contact us through our email at welcome@firstunitarianottawa.ca, or if you're here today in Worship Hall, Carol Card is available at the welcome table. And now here's Casey from our board with the board announcements for today.
Good morning, everyone. It's been an interesting 12 hours. So, from the board, first I want to mention that next Saturday, there's a multi-generation barbecue happening right here, completely free, no pre-registration required. Please show up. We'd love to see as many of you as possible. And there's the Tulipathon. It's a fundraiser for multi-faith housing, and it ends next Sunday. And we hope you can participate. It's something we've been doing for many, many years now. And details for it and the barbecue are both in the EUU if you have any other questions, or you can come and see me. I'll answer as best as I can, and if I can't, I'll find the answer for you. And that's it.
Thanks, Casey. Do we have anyone from the Environmental Action Group with the announcements? I think perhaps that there's no one representing them here today. Don't forget to read up in the EUU and find out what's happening in the environmental action area. During the continuing pandemic, we encourage you to sign up to receive the EUU, our weekly email newsletter, check our Facebook page and Instagram pages, and our web page for notices and updates. Our calendar continues to be as full as ever, even though many of our activities still take place online. Whatever your heritage, whatever your faith, whomever you love, and however you identify, today you are part of our spiritual community. We're so glad to see everyone here and to know people who have power in internet or tuning in online. And this morning we're very excited to hear from Clare Brennan, who teaches at Algonquin College and just happens to be married to our operations manager, Jen Brennan, who will be our speaker today. I'll introduce Clare more fully later. At this time, we light our chalice this morning to these words adapted slightly from those by Alexis Engelbrecht. The space in which we now find ourselves was once empty. Now it is full with our presence. This space, this sanctuary that now includes you and me, this is holy ground as we each, with our inherent worth and dignity, place ourselves within it. What might we create together? What might we breathe into life with our words and actions? What might we be for one another? What might we be for this community? This is no small, insignificant act, us being here together. Indeed, this is a space full of potential and it's good to be here with you. Our chalice is lit, and now our opening hymn, Kumbaya, with Pat McDonald and Doug. If you're here in Worship Hall, please feel free to hum along, or if you're at home. Thank you very much. That was lovely. And now I'll read the Call to Worship by Gretchen Haley. Whatever you have come in anticipating, whatever you expect or worry for our world, for the future, for our lives, let it go. Make space in your heart to be surprised. Make room in your soul for a new story to take shape. Let astonishment be possible at this life that remains a miracle. Imagine here the bursting of joy, relentless and resilient, coming in waves, washing over us with music and story, silence, and still this dreaming together. being hope for each other and courage to believe in this new day dawning for us all. Come, let us worship together. Reverend Ellen is not with us this morning. I'm sure, like many people, she's affected by the storm. So I will be placing some stones in the water to reflect our thoughts and prayers as they go out into the world. First, most locally, thinking of those people who affected or severely affected by this storm, people who died in Ontario, those who suffered injuries, or all the extensive damage to our homes and also our beloved trees. We'll put a stone in the water for others suffering from the effects of wild climate, including heat waves in Europe and the tornadoes that have affected North America and Europe as we face this climate crisis. And a stone for the people of Ukraine who remain in our hearts, those who are there, those who have fled, those who are trying to make a new life here and elsewhere in the world. And a final thought, a stone for all the thoughts and prayers that we keep in our hearts. May we be connected to all things loving, protected from all things evil, and guided in all ways gracious. Pat. We've obviously had technical difficulties with Neo's story for all ages, so we'll just continue. I have a reading, Each New Day, by Peter Friedrich. Why is this blank page staring back at me, mocking, like an affliction and fraught with dread? How can it hold such sway, this simple emptiness? Might it instead be a gift, left on my doorstep overnight, waiting to be broken open with the dawn? A present, eager to emerge. If I only had the sense to hold the paper over a candle flame, its lemon message appearing like magic, clear and true. Each new day is like this, pure air, devoid of density, but for the weight of our own invention. Birds do not worry the morning or fret the rising sun. They wait, expectant, until its rays kiss their downy necks, then stretching, they turn to face the day and sing. So I'm now going to introduce to you Clare Brennan, who is our speaker this morning. Reverend Eric is absent. Clare is a creative director, visual artist, and educator. As I mentioned, he's the husband of Jen Brennan, our operations manager. For the past 14 years, he's been teaching a course on creativity at Algonquin College, and he's going to speak to us on that topic, 7 Habits of Creative Folks. So I will welcome Clare to the podium. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. I'm just going to do a 2-finger flip so he knows when to. So, hello. So now that we're friends, as you can see, I'm nervous. But it's good to see that there's not very many of you because I'm used to doing this in front of, 90, 100 17-year-olds. So I welcome this group. So next up is, I know that when you heard Clare Brennan, this is probably what you were expecting, and I'm sorry to say that that it's just yet another white guy talking to you. So when I started teaching at Algonquin, I've done it for, as we were saying, 14 years. I then developed this organization to start teaching it to the wider world, to start teaching it to groups like this and other folks that I've been taking the message out to, that I've sort of cobbled together over these years. So now let's get on with the 7 habits. And the first thing to say about that is, if we move forward, that this isn't rocket science, and that over 30 years in my industry as a graphic designer, I've worked with hundreds of writers and designers and thinkers and illustrators and photographers and plumbers and engineers who've helped me develop these ideas, their knowledge has helped me get here. And the other thing that has helped me get here is countless mistakes that I've made over the year in creativity. So the first thing I'll go to is why creativity. And when Reverend Eric asked me, he said, I've been following you on Instagram, and I think it would be good for you to give us a few minutes to chat. I thought it would be good to say why I think creativity makes sense to this group. And if we move forward, what I find is that essentially what I teach my students is that creativity, it allows us to solve problems and to be innovative, but also it allows us to open our minds and broaden our perspectives and be much more inclusive and essentially less prejudice. And I think that's something that we could all want. And that's a level of empathy that I think creativity gives to us all. And I definitely look with my students that's what they're trying to learn, is to be empathetic towards people that they're creating for. So anyways, that's why I think creativity can be helpful to us all. And then on to the 7, and we'll go right into the first one, which is rhythm. And so rhythm would be that habit, or doing it regularly, or scheduled. And you know, this is what I've seen other creatives that I work with do. I know countless individuals that treat it as a daily exercise. And you know, maybe it's not a 5-hour daily exercise, maybe it's a 10-minute process that they do in the morning, or a half an hour that they do at night. But then it's essentially a way of locking down some time for yourself to be creative, so that you can say to someone, can we do that 3 o'clock on Tuesday? And you can say, no, that's my creative time. I'm doing it 3 o'clock on every Tuesday at 3 o'clock. I do this, I paint, or I do poetry, or I dance, or I sing, so that you can lock out that time. A great example of a way to get there is something called the 100-day challenge. And how that works is you essentially say, I'm going to write a haiku every day for 100 days, come rain or shine. Or I'm going to paint a flower every day for 100 days. And what I find it's very useful to do is to begin a scheduled pattern in how you begin to create regularly and make it part of your life. And that takes us to the next effective tactic and habit, and that is quantity. And it sounds a little counterintuitive, quantity over quality, and absolutely quantity over quality, because more is more, and you don't get to quality without quantity. It's not, the issue is not about coming up with an idea. The issue is about coming up with enough ideas that you got a good one in that pile of ideas. Excuse me. And the next thing to say about that is delay editing. You know, if you think about when you're bashing away on the computer, it's constantly screaming at you. It's constantly highlighting words that you've misspelled, and it's saying, you know, cat's not spelled with a K, so you're changing that, and that's a constant stop. You're constantly interrupting your creativity, as opposed to just continuing it. So don't edit. Don't worry, don't go, oh, that idea, I don't know if I like that one. Just keep going. And then when you're done, that's when you can go through the batch. That's when you can find the ones you like. That's when you can pick out the ones that are winners and are great. There's something in the creative world that we call the creative gap, and that's regarding idea generation. And if you see on the curve here, people, it's easy to come up with some ideas, you know, and you're doing it yourself, or maybe you're in a team. That's what I'm used to, working in teams. And you're coming up with ideas, and it's going really well, and you got 2 or 3 ideas, and then you find that you're at the bottom of this gap, and you've stopped coming up with ideas, and you're starting to talk about your weekend, and you're thinking, oh, I should probably wash the dog, and you know, there's all these things that are getting in your way now because you're running out of ideas. And what I do, a lot of the work that I do with my students, is to help them get over that gap, ways to get beyond that gap. Because if we get to the other side, if we move to the other side, that's where the big ideas are. That's where your great ideas are. So that's part of that quantity. You know, if you've got 2 ideas, one of them better be good, because you've only got 2. But if you got 29 ideas, there's going to be several great ideas in there. And that's what creativity is, finding great ideas. There's a second creative gap, and that's called the taste versus skills gap. And where that becomes an issue is, so let's say you do want to be painting like Botticelli. If you start tomorrow, it's probably not going to be a Botticelli. You're probably not going to get there right off. And that's what stops a lot of people's creativity. That's the point where they go, I suck at this. Why would I continue this? Look at that face, looks like a hamburger. So it's the process, it's the time, it's the continued quantity of doing 100 hamburger-faced Botticellis till you get to the point where your skill and your talent begin to match each other. And all of a sudden, you're making beautiful work out of that quantity. That takes us to the next habit, and that's practice. And that makes sense. So it's show up and do the work. It's It's be there to make that quantity. I call it do the do part. And anyone can come up with an idea. It's really those people that let that idea come down their arm and out their hand and draw, or down and out their mouth, or out their, that's when it becomes creativity. When it's in your head, it's just kind of we all have ideas. When it comes out of your body, that's when it's creativity. That's when it feels fantastic. And the last thing I would say about practicing is that helps you get to quantity. But the other thing is people tend to think of creativity as something that you're born with. You're struck by lightning and you were lucky. You were the one that was creative. But it's not. It's a muscle you can strengthen. It's like any other muscle in the body. With use, it gets better. It gets more flexible and strong and usable. So that's what's great about creativity, is it can continue to flourish. And that takes me to the next one, which is learn. So again, if you're going to be the next Botticelli, you need to learn from some experts. You need to pick apart what they're doing. Whether that's looking at books, reading, or it's actually going to someone, going to that lecture on writing the perfect novel, or going to that dance class, or learning from those experts that can actually help you get to that creative point that you want, where your taste and your skill can meet. Another thing that happens quite often with creatives, I find, is we plateau. We get to the point where, this is as good as I can do with my banjo playing. And again, it's another point in your life where you think, well, maybe I need to find another mentor. Maybe I need to find a new person who can help me get beyond where I am. I'm really good at this song. I can't get the next one. Well, don't fight it. Get help to do that. We should always be constantly learning. That takes us to the next one, which is a way to learn, which is to swipe. And if we look at these next ones, and I'm just going to sort of scroll through these. So, when the reclining nude first became part of Western art, it became just a subject that people continually created and recreated and interpreted and did. And as time went on, it actually became something that it was no longer just creating what was considered the ideal vision of beauty. It then became, what can I say about that ideal vision of beauty that Western men have told us is? And that's when other artists and other people, other creatives can start to say, I think that there's a different vision of what beauty should be. And that's swiping, that's that borrowing, it's the taking, it's the using, it's the crediting, it's the remixing. And even this, this is from Austin Kleon, who's a great creative guy and has a book called Steal Like an Artist, where he talks about good theft. He considers this good theft. There's bad theft. When you're taking something and you're trying to hide that you've pastiched someone else's work. But these are good ways to take from others. And the other thing about that is be promiscuous. Take from a lot of people. When I was in school, I was in a drawing class, and I loved Henry Moore. I still love Henry Moore. And I was sketching, and my teacher came over and said, "You like Henry Moore, don't you?" And at first I thought, this is a great compliment. And then I realized it's not a great compliment. He's seen through, and he realizes that I'm drawing Henry Moore. So I had to become promiscuous and draw from other people. I had to learn from others and make that whole thing me, all the bits that I borrowed from other people. So steal, be a good thief. Next thing, feedback. And when we talk about feedback, so you're creating, you need honest, diverse feedback. It's tough to hear, and I've worked with a lot of writers and a lot of designers and a lot of photographers, and they don't like to show their work. They put their arm up and then, and my job is to look at their work and see where it's going, and see how it's developing. And they don't like to show me because they're worried that I'm going to, say something they don't want to hear. But you have to hear those things to make your work better. I worked at an agency for years, and Laura was this wonderful woman who worked at the front desk. And she would I would pull her back and I would say, Laura, look at this. And if she didn't get it, I knew I was off base. I knew I was in my head and the idea was not going to work because Laura doesn't get it. I get it because I've been working on it for the last 2 days, but Laura hasn't got a clue. So her diverse opinion was so necessary for me to create better work. The other thing is, don't get your advice from your Aunt Lucy or your feedback from your Aunt Lucy. She's really nice and she's just going to say great things about you. It's a good friend that tells you when it's crap. And those are great people to come by, and those are great people to put in your creative circle because they want your creativity to be better. They want it to be stronger. The next thing, you've done all this. You packed your brain full of all this stuff. You've tried to be creative. You've tried to learn. You've tried to understand. The next thing is go for a walk. Give your brain a break. You know, it needs time to process all that creative stuff you've hammered inside it. It needs time to understand and grapple with it. Hey, take a nap. You know, we've all had that experience of going to bed, worrying about something, and the next morning, there's the answer. Somehow our wonderful, gooey brain has this ability, when we let it relax a bit, to come up with the answer. The worst thing you can do for your creativity is work harder. Hard work frustrates creativity. It makes it hard and controlled, and creativity doesn't want to be hard and controlled. It wants to think and be expansive and be open. Last thing, the big bonus, is love. And it is love what you love, do what you love, not what you think you should do. It's very easy to be told by the world around you what you should be doing. You know, you may love drawing pictures of kittens, and everybody goes, that's a good kitten, but can you draw a dachshund? You know, I don't want to draw a dachshund, and it's going to show up in my picture of a dachshund. You know, I'm going to keep trying to draw the dachshund, and he's going to look like a tube with little sticks on. Whereas my kittens, they look great because I love drawing kittens. Do the thing you love. Don't let what's current and trendy and exciting, don't let it steer your creativity into a direction you don't want to be really doing, because it will show up in your creativity. Do what you love. So that's the 8 that I've been able to glean over 30 years. You know, I hope that you can find a way personally to use some of this information. I hope that there's a potential for the entire congregation to use this innovation to help come up with wonderful ways to change the world. So thank you very much.
Hello, I'm on. Okay. I'm going to do what I love. Okay. I ran into this song, and I'm hoping we can get the words up. I ran into this song 60 years ago. 60 years. And it's still pertinent. And I'm thinking of now creative ways that we can link this song to we as a church, because I've always wanted to do it for this church. And I'm thinking that we, as a people, are looking at creative ways to use this land and to use this church for the betterment of people and to help a little bit to what this song speaks to. It's called The Streets of London. Have you seen the old man down the closed down market, picking up the papers with his worn out shoes? In his eyes you see no pride, hands held loosely by his side. Yesterday's papers selling yesterday's news. So how can you tell me you're lonely and say for you the sun don't shine? Let me take you by the hand and lead you through the streets of London. I'll show you something to help you change your mind. So have you seen the old girl who walks the streets of London? There's dirt in her hair and her clothes in rags. She's no time for talking, just keeps right on a-walking, carrying her home in 2 carrier bags. So how can you tell me you're lonely and say for you the sun don't shine? Let me take you by the hand and lead you through the streets of London. I'll show you something to help you change your mind. In the all-night cafe at 11:15, there's the same old man sitting there on his own. He's looking at the world over the rim of his teacup. Each tea lasts an hour, then he wanders home alone. And have you seen the old man outside the Seaman's Mission? His memory is fading with those metal ribbons that he wears. In our winter city, the rain cries, little pity, for one more forgotten hero and a world that doesn't care. So how can you tell me you're lonely and say for you the sun don't shine? Let me take you by the hand and lead you through the streets of Ottawa. I'll show you something to help you change your mind. To the song.
First of all, thank you very much, Claire. It was most interesting, lots of food for thought. Perhaps we'll be able to chat a little bit later. That was really excellent, and thank you, Pat, for your creativity today. Yeah. This congregation has a long history of care, vitality, bringing people together to move the arc of justice forward. We have been able to live into our hopes and dreams because of the generosity of those within and beyond this community. Whether you are here in Worship Hall or anywhere else at all, you are part of this community. To make a gift in support of the work of this congregation, you don't need to use the baskets that will soon be making their way among the pews. Wherever you are invited to go to our website or contact our finance manager to find out how to make a donation and keep up with your pledge. Our gifts are freely given and gratefully received. We dedicate these gifts to the work of this community of faith, serving human wholeness, caring for the planet, upholding religious freedom, welcoming the stranger, loving one another. And now our closing hymn, There's a River Flowing in My Soul. And for those who are here in Worship Hall, you can hum along. And if you're elsewhere you have a hymnal, the song is number 1007 in our teal hymnal.
There's a river flowing in my soul. There's a river flowing in my soul. There's a river flowing in my mind. There's a river flowing in my mind, and it's telling me that I'm somebody. There's a river flowing in my mind. There's a river flowing in my mind.
Thank you very much, Doug and Pat. And before we begin to close this time of worship and reflection, remind you that our online hospitality hour will begin at 11:30 a.m. for those of us who have power at home. And remember, we're also providing access to hospitality hour in the lounge out the doors to the back left of the worship hall and then around to your right. As we prepare to extinguish our chalice and move toward the conclusion of this time of worship and inspiration, let these words by Barbara Wells be our guide. May you find the deep peace of creation flowing in your spirit. May your senses awake to the creative spark that lives in you. May you walk in beauty and seek to create beauty wherever you go. May you take the risk of discovering the divine within you and around you. And may the Spirit of life bless you with courage and hope as you live creatively with others by your side. The chalice is now extinguished, but the spark of our connections and our faith remain. With that said, if any choir members would like to come forward to join Pat in blessing us with Spirit of Life, you're very welcome. You're here. You reach out your hands towards one another as we leave this place. Go in peace, go in joy, go in love, so that someday all may be well. And now, this morning's postlude. Thank you again, Pat.